My dear friends, my name is Umesh Rao. Today's subject is Karnataka Shops and Commercial Establishments Act 1962. It is covered under Labor Law 2. The table of contents. In this class, we are dealing with objects of the Act, who are all the persons should register under the Act, what is the definition of shop, what is the definition of commercial establishment. Establishments which are exempted from Karnataka Shops and Establishment Act. Who is the owner and what is his duty? Establishment which are exempted from declaring weekly holidays. What are the rights of the employees? And registration procedure under Karnataka Shops and Procedural Establishment Act 1962. Karnataka Shops and Commercial Establishment Act 1962. It extends to whole of Karnataka and it came into force with effect from 1/3/1962. Object of the Act, it makes a base law to all organization. It should be followed by all. It contains duties, rights of the owner and employees. It provides the regulation of work and employment in shops and commercial establishment in Karnataka. Under the Act, what is the meaning of shop? What is the definition of shop? Shop means any premises where any trade or business is carried on or where services are rendered to customers, and it includes offices, storerooms, godowns, warehouses, whether in the same premises or otherwise, used in such connection with such trade or business, but it does not include a commercial establishment or shop attached to a factory where the persons employed in the shop fall within the scope of the Factories Act of 1948. Now, what is the meaning, definition of commercial establishment? Commercial establishment means commercial or trading or banking or insurance establishment or an establishment or administrative service in which persons employed are mainly engaged in office work. It may be hotel, restaurant or eating house, a cafe or any other refreshment house, a theatre or any other place of public amusement or entertainment, and it includes such establishment as the state government may by notification declare to be commercial establishment for the purpose of this act. Now, establishments exempted from the act. Which are all the establishments exempted from Karnataka Shops and Establishment Act 1962? Central or state government or local authority officers. Any water service, water transport service, postal, railway, telephone, telegraph service, and sanitation works. Industry supply power, light, and water. Railway dining cars. Establishment treats sick and mentally unfit people. Food Corporation of India. Management of any establishment. Drivers, caretakers, and watchmen. Clearing and forwarding units. Clubs and residential hotels. Boarding houses attached to schools. Boarding and lodging of students and masters. Refreshments at railway station, bus stand, aerodrome, barber shops. Shops deals with fish, poultry, eggs, dairy, bread, confectionery, chocolates, ice cream, cooked food, fruits, flowers, vegetables, and green fodder. Shops deals with funerals, burial, cremation, pawn shops, newspaper shops, cinema theatre and stalls attached to cinema theatre, petrol shops, troop canteens, exhibition shop, brick lime kilns. These are all establishments exempted from Karnataka Shops and Establishment Act 1962. Now, you know what is shop and what is establishment. Now, what is the duties of the owner? Who is the owner? Owner is a person who is having charge of a unit. He may be the owner of the unit. He has the ultimate control over the affairs of the company. He controls manager, he controls his agents, he controls his employees. What is his duties? Owner has to submit the application for registration of his establishment within 30 days from the start of the business. He has to display his registration certificate inside the premises at a prominent place. If any changes or particulars given during the registration certificate, you should be informed to the owner at the registration authority within 15 days of the change. Registration certificate is valid for 5 years. Before expiry of the period, renewal application should be submitted. In case of closure of business, certificate of registration should be surrendered to the registration authority. Now, regarding working hours, what is this? In the Bangalore city, establishment shall not carry out business before 6 p.m. and night after 9 p.m. Owner has to make arrangement for this. Other than Bangalore city, establishment shall not work before 8 a.m. and night after 8 p.m. Regarding employment of child and women, employment of child under the age of 14 years is prohibited. Women employees between the age of 14 to 18 years should not be allowed to work after 8 p.m. in night. In IT/BT sector, if company wants to allow women to work beyond 8 p.m., it has to obtain permission from the authorities. Now regarding weekly holidays, every establishment in Karnataka shall remain closed one day in a week. Employer has to fix one day in the starting of the year as weekly holiday and he display it on the notice board. If organization has sufficient additional workers, organization can remain open the whole week. It can fix different days as holidays for different workers. Employees should be issued appointment order and salary should be paid before 7th of every month for the previous month. End of the every year, employees earned leave should be credited to his leave account. It is one day for every 20 days working during the year. Sick leave, one day for every 30 days. It should be credited to his leave account. Employee completed 180 days cannot be terminated without the issue of prior notice. Now, establishment which are all exempted from weekly holidays, for example, hostel attached to schools or colleges, residential schools, lodging and hotel and clubs, refreshment rooms and stalls situated at bus stand, aerodrome, railway stations and ports, hairdressing and barber shops, shops which are dealing in fish, meat, poultry, dairy products, eggs, breads, confectionery, chocolates, sweets, ice cream, flowers, fruits, vegetables, cooked food for sale, shops selling cigarette, soft drinks, pan, bidi, shops dealing in newspaper, public recreation centers like cinema theater and shops and stalls attached to such recreation center, sale of petrol and diesel establishment, body tanning shops, retail shops at an exhibition, bricks manufacturing units, units engaged in the process of melting of bronze and brass in furnace, services related to information and technology, research institution on contagious disease. These institutions shall be mandatory holiday. You give mandatory holiday for a person working continuously for 6 days on the 7th day. What is the rights of the employees? Every employee has to take 1 day in a week as mandatory holiday. Employee working extra hours entitled overtime pay. Earned leave can be accumulated up to 40 days for an employee. Encashment of unutilized earned leave is the right of the every employee. Removal of employee without sufficient cause, he can file an appeal against his dismissal. Employee is entitled a compensation equal to 1 month pay for every year of service rendered. Now, registration procedure under Karnataka shops and commercial establishment. Who has to apply for registration? Before whom he has to apply registration? Application has to be filed. Employer of every establishment send the application to the concerned inspector of the area. Employer has to submit the statement in prescribed form along with registration fees. See, what are all the details contained in the pro forma or statement? Name of the employer, manager, postal address of the establishment, name of the establishment, such other particulars needed. After receipt of the application, what is the duties of the inspector? Inspector, after receipt of the statement and fees, if satisfied about the correctness of the statement, he can register the certificate. He can register the establishment. Inspector will issue registration certificate to the establishment. Registration certificate issued shall be valid for 5 years. Employer has to display the registration certificate in a prominent place in an establishment. Now, what is the time limit for registration? There are two categories. One, new establishment and establishment already existing at the time of Act is came into operation. For new establishment, because Act comes into force with effect from 1362. So within 30 days of the receipt of the statement with fees, he has to register a case in new establishment. In the case of existing establishment, on the date on which the Act comes into force, within 30 days from the date on which this Act comes into force, he has to register. If inspector is not satisfied about the correctness of the statement, what he will do? Inspector will communicate the employer his decision to refuse to register the establishment with reasons. If it does not communicate the establishment, it shall be deemed to have been registered. Registration certificate is valid for 5 years. Afterwards, what will happen? Registration certificate shall be renewed before the expiry of the period of registration on payment of prescribed fees. Now, renewal of registration. If inspector is not satisfied about the statement or renewal application or payment of fees or any other conditions, inspector has to communicate within 30 days of the receipt of the statement to the employer his decision of refusing to renew the registration with reasons, failing which certificate shall be deemed to have been renewed. In case registration certificate or renewal of registration is not received by the employer within a specified period, then what to do? Employer shall display a self-certification statement sent to the registration authority as a registration certificate. Then he will get deemed benefit. Subsequently, when he replace it a regular certificate. What is the position of the employer? Falsely claiming the benefit of the registration and displaying it, he will be punished with the imprisonment of 6 months with fine of rupees 5,000. If there is any change in the information contained in the statement, what to do? It should be communicated within 15 days after the change has been taken place. Inspector, if satisfied about the correctness of the information, he make change in the register of establishment and amend the RC. Now, closing of the establishment. If the employer wants to close the establishment, what he will do? Within 15 days of closing of the establishment, the employer shall inform the inspector in writing the date on such closure and return the RC, return the registration certificate. Inspector then what to do? He will remove such establishment from the register of establishment and cancel the registration certificate. If inspector does not receive information, but he is satisfied that the establishment is closed, then he may remove the establishment from such a registration. Now, issue of appointment letters. Every employer employing any person shall issue appointment letter in writing indicating name, designation, wage scale, terms and conditions of employment. The employer shall give the appointment letter to such person within 30 days from the date of the appointment. If employee is appointed prior to the commencement of the act, the employer, if not issued a employment order, then employer communicate in writing name with other details and serve him within 30 days from the date of the such commencement of the act regarding his employment. Thank you. The end.